Hello students, we are going to continue with a new concept here, which is inverse proportionality. We are building off the direct proportion, but there's a slight difference. And so in order for us to be able to see the differences side by side, I would like you to copy this down. So go ahead and pause the video at this point, copy this down, and when you're done, you can go ahead and play it again, and we'll continue. All right, so you should already have this down and you should be familiar with this, right? Y is equal to kx, and we already know that. Now, however, now we're going to talk about something that is called the inverse proportion. So what if I have 3 rooms, and in each room there are a few mosquitoes, right? Like there are lots and lots of mosquitoes, lots of insects, and I got bug spray. The thing is, bug spray works differently than direct proportion. Like if I spray once, the number of insects don't go up, right? They actually should be going down. So in this case, let's say I have one room with all 3 rooms have the same amount of mosquitoes, but I spray one with 1 spray, I spray one with 2 sprays, and the last one with 3 sprays. Then what I would have here is, let's say in the first one I find that I have 600 insects, right? There are 600 insects that are still alive. And then I check the other one and I have 300 insects alive. And in the last one I find that I have 200 insects alive. Now, so what does this mean? Well, this is an example of an inverse proportion, because you see that as one goes up, the other one continues to go down. So let's try to see what this would look like. So an inverse proportion and then I'm gonna write as an opposite to the other one. If x goes up, so x should keep going up, by the way. That should always be the trend. Then you're going to find that y goes down. So the number of bug sprays go up, then the number of bugs go down. This is an inverse proportion. Now let's write down what the equation would look like. So you know that y is equal to kx, but in this case, the equation for an inverse proportion, it would be y is equal to k. Instead of multiplied by x, it's going to be k divided by x. That's the formula that you're going to be using. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is an inverse. These are 2 formulas that you will need to know. You'll need to know the direct proportion and the inverse proportion. Now, how about the constant of proportionality? Because there still is one. Well, you see that there's still the letter k, and so of course it must also have a constant of proportionality. The way you calculate this is slightly different than the first one. So we're going to start again by using the y equals kx or k divided by x. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what you can do to solve this so that you're only getting the letter k. Remember that we're aiming to just get the letter k, right? So if I use algebra here, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to isolate the letter k. Now, in order for me to do that, on the first part, I'm going to have to do times x, because I want to get rid of, like, the opposite of divide by x is times by x. So then I'm going to times x to both sides, gets rid of the x on that side, and so I'm left with x times y, and then on the other side, it's free. I have k. Now I'm going to flip this around. Just remember I could do this because it's an equal sign, so I don't really have to flip the sign around, but it's going to be k is equal to x, y. And remember, the ultimate goal is we're trying to find out what this letter k is. So once again, k equals x, y. Now, this is going to help us find the constant of proportionality. So we're going to use this number up here as an example, but we're going to turn this into we're going to find the constant of proportionality to make sure that it is an inverse proportion, and then we are going to create a formula for it. These next steps should be very familiar to you guys at this point, because you've done this for the direct proportionality. So for the inverse, we start by checking all the numbers that we have, right? We have 3 numbers here that we're going to compare. So let's find out, let's just write EG first. So example, k, let's say we said k is equal to x times y. So then k would be equal to 1 times 600. And in that case, you're going to get 600. So the constant of proportionality for the first one is 600. Now it should remain the same for the other ones for it to be an inverse proportion. And sure enough, This one also has 600. Now, please make sure that you're double checking all three of them. There's going to be some trick questions here that you're going to have to be aware of. So if the K is not the same, you know that it's not a proportionality. So make sure that you understand that these three numbers must be the exact same numbers. So yes, this is an inverse proportion. And so now, last step, we just want to write the formula for it. Oh, by the way, so ultimately we're left with, if we are looking for the constant K is equal to 600, that'll be the answer for that. And then how about making an equation out of it? You just have to plug the K back in. So then you're left with Y is equal to K, which is 600, over X. And that is the constant or the equation of the inverse proportion there. All right. So just to kind of recap everything we've talked about, an inverse proportion is the opposite of a direct proportion. Instead of the X going up when the Y going up when the X goes up, instead the Y goes down when the X goes up. So one goes up and it causes the other one to go down. And you are ultimately finding it out through the equation Y is equal to K over X because it is an inverse, it's the opposite. And then you should be able to then use the formula K equals XY to find the constant of proportionality, and then you should be able to end with finding the other proportion or the equation of the inverse proportionality. Before we end, there is a little bit of assignment that I would like you to try just to kind of continue your knowledge on this. So with that, I would like you to try the questions on page 320. Go ahead and give it a shot. That's how you could end your notes here. And once you're done, we'll talk more about this tomorrow.